Listen for the click, Shonna.
I am. I'm listening. See, did you hear that? Welcome to Tech Entrepreneurs Nebraska, or 10. I'm Shonna Dorsey with the Nebraska Tech Collaborative, powered by Exarban, and also with Intern Nebraska, powered by Exarban. Here with my co-host,
Brian Poppe. I work at Mutual of Omaha. Today we're joined by Josh Berry. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brian.
I guess, Shonna. Should I have called you Joshua or Josh?
Yeah, what do you prefer?
I actually prefer Joshua now.
Okay, Joshua.
You're Joshua.
You got
I'm
it.
Joshua now.
I'm very sorry, Joshua.
All right.
I very forgive you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We wanted to talk about, naivete, but also a book that you are the author of that is to be coming out very soon.
November 28th.
November 28th.
Yep. We have a new book. I actually do have an advanced reader copy here, as you can see. The book, Dare to be Naive, How to Find Your True Self in a Noisy World.
Okay. That's great. So I can't wait to get into all of that. Before we do, now we're down to 9 minutes. But
okay, 10-minute podcast.
Minutes. Go ahead.
No, you do your thing. All right. Yeah, I see where you're going with this. All right. It's a 10-minute podcast. So there's no cuts, no edits, no retakes.
Great.
So this is it. This is the live conversation.
I love it.
This is great.
Dare to be Naive book by Joshua Berry.
Correct.
Tell us about that, because I think like the audience that we generally pull are folks that are in that kind of space of like, hey, how do I need to think about this old problem in a new way?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like draw out maybe the theme of the book, and then like what led you to ultimately write it. Like, because a lot of people think about writing a book.
Yeah,
you actually did it, and like
this is your
if you're watching us on YouTube, there's actually a physical copy of a book that has words in it.
Yeah, actually has words in it. So many words, not actually too many words. It's a shorter book.
Yeah.
Okay.
The book, the work that we do is primarily with companies, helping them evolve how work is being done. I think one of the greatest ways that we can change the world and society to make it better is to make the world of work a better place. And when I went out to try to figure out what was preventing a lot of leaders from doing that, what I found was a lot of groupthink and a lot of, really not getting out of people's comfort zones. And yet, when I went out and interviewed and researched some of the people who I really admire as doing great work, not only having good businesses, but doing good through their businesses, there was this common pattern that a number of them said, you know what, this might sound naive, but... And then they would share this amazing practice or truth or philosophy or whatever it might be. And after a while, I started to think, why don't you just then be naive? And what is it that actually stops us from being naive? And to your point, a lot of your audience, the great entrepreneurs here in Nebraska and in the Midwest, understand that you need to be curious and you need to go beyond what other people might think is the main rational reasoning of something to start to really create something breakthrough and amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, yeah, one of my favorite stories. I've got an advanced copy of this book, so I got a chance to read part of it. One of my favorite stories is maybe you in your retail job. I don't at a local grocery store chain. I don't know if I can say the name of the chain, but like, and working for a manager that like made probably some counterintuitive decisions that ultimately worked out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to like give an example of.
Absolutely. My very first job at this store with a big red logo that's here in the Midwest. He put me in a manager way before it was probably smart to do it. He had so many things where he took bets on people who were younger or older than they probably should have been. And a lot of times, a lot of other people saw him as naive. And yet he always did these things because he was trying to take care of the customers. He was trying to take care of the people. He was trying to take care of the community. And he wasn't doing it like in the way of, I do that and then they're going to pay me back somehow. Mm-hmm. Like it was just give first. And with that faith and with that trust, things tended to work out for him. And, it's interesting when you start to look at examples like that, or Patagonia, or I talk about Joie de Vivre Hospitality, or a number of other organizations out there. You found great leaders who are saying, I'm going to do something that feels reasonably correct and intuitively correct. Like my brain says this seems to be a good thing, and my heart and my gut says this seems to be a good thing. And when those things come together, it kind of turned into some magic.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. So because I'm like all for transparency, I literally was like, Joshua, this is your second book. And you're like, no, it's the first.
My first book.
But that's still exciting. First, I'm just like, of course you've written like multiple books at this point.
Shonna. Thank you.
But very cool. So can you tell us how you got to this point in your journey in general. So where have you been? I know you've been in the entrepreneurship space for some time. So can you talk to us about
Sure.
leading up to this?
Yep. My first 10 years were spent doing talent and human resources work around the world. With companies like Mercedes-Benz and H&R Block and Cheesecake Factory, where I gained like 15 pounds by helping out with restaurant openings.
By the way, I don't know if either one of you are on TikTok, but like the Cheesecake Factory is like a cultural phenomenon for people outside of the US.
I had no idea.
Like they're like, how Americans, how are you not at the Cheesecake Factory like once a week?
You can look at photos from 2012 and you can see what being at the Cheesecake Factory once a week does to somebody. It's not the prettiest. But after those 10 years, I went out on my own into our first startup. We put our house up for sale. We were pregnant with our fourth kid, and the first startup flopped. Had issues left and right that we can get into on another 10-minute podcast. And it was through that then I started to figure out what makes startups work. And, through collaborations with the accelerator systems here around it, where I got to meet you for the first time, Shonna. And a little bit for you too, Brian. Yeah. It was in those early accelerator days that we started to really understand, some of these things that start to appear in this book. And then we created Econic after that. And that was December of 2015. So today, a lot of our work centers around actually helping larger corporations figure out how to be more innovative and to evolve the world of work. So I think eventually it was like, I should write a book. People keep telling me I should write a book. And I kept saying like, no, I think I'm actually a better curator than I'm a creator. There's too many books in the world. And then I realized that was all just excuses, that I was actually kind of afraid of rejection, right? I was afraid of sending Brian, you an initial chapter to read, legit. I was like, what is he going to think? And eventually had to, get through those sorts of things. And so, similar thing to so many entrepreneurs, you hold on and you keep working on the thing and you keep working on the thing. And you never release it out there to the world to face all the criticism. But also sometimes the love, right, that you get back to it and the good critiques and things you get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it goes back. I don't remember whose quote it is, so I will attribute this to Anonymous, which is terrible. But somebody said, if you're not embarrassed by the first release, like you release too late.
I think you're right. I think that was Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
Yeah. He also said, don't believe everything you see on the internet, right?
He definitely said that.
That's great.
So, our dear friend Abe gives some good advice. So I guess, in what area of your life are you currently like, I'm taking this naive leap of faith to like, is it the book? Is that currently where you're at? And if so, like what's coming after that?
Well, yeah, it is a little bit in the book. It is a little bit also in what we're continuing to grow with Econic. We're still doing projects with organizations around psych safety and innovation labs and work like that. But in 2024, we have to come up with a cooler name for it, but somebody's working on that. We're going to develop our first regional program for more conscious leadership. And so that's kind of the next big naive push into this.
Oh, sure.
Is seeing something here in the Midwest where we can continue to help the most senior leaders evolve into really understanding how their beliefs are powering the practices at work and where they might be in transition through some of those beliefs and ideas. So we're already starting to talk to people, and I'm extremely excited about that. The naive thing about it is really trusting that a lot of the clients that we're working with and the people around them are ready for something like this. And so far, early feedback has been great. But
that's an interesting thing. We had a guest on recently who was talking about they run a culture shaping organization. And one of the things they mentioned is that usually companies with good culture are seeking better culture, but the ones who probably could use a lot of the support don't think they need it, which is so fascinating. So anyway, it's like, you got what I'm saying.
100%.
It's wild.
It is. It is. You got to take those people who already have this sense of there could be something better and help accelerate them. I've worked too long trying to convince those other people.
Yep.
And there's still so many other people who actually want help and want to get better at it.
I mean, that reminds me of another great experiment that our friend Abraham Lincoln ran, which was in an interview question. They had asked like, what's your browser? And if you were not using the default, either Internet Explorer or Safari, and you'd gone so far as to doing Chrome, like you ended up being a better person because it was like, oh, I know that I can like push myself a little bit further to maybe get a better experience. So you're uncovering the same like thing with these leaders of like, you're already finding folks that are like willing to push themselves a little bit further.
Yeah.
Like those are the folks who are really focused on making culture better, are the ones who are like really thinking about that before even like trying anything.
No, I think you're exactly right. The only thing I'll correct about that is Abe Lincoln was a Netscape user.
Yeah, he really missed out.
Well, on that note.
Oh shoot, we're at time. Thanks everybody. Joshua, thanks for joining us.